Welcome to the Master Cars Pro channel. Today we will talk about the problems and weaknesses of this wonderful car. We are starting with the power units as usual. For Kia Soul Billy available petrol engines 1.6 G4FC and 2.0 G4GC and G4KD, European versions with a 1.6-liter D4FB turbodiesel are also available on the secondary market. The weakest engine is found here most often for a good reason, and it is a very reliable and economical unit. The main troubles faced by cars owners with this internal combustion engine, it is an intake air suction and early failure of the fuel pump. Closer to 150,000 kilometers, the catalyst and timing chain requires attention, ultimately replacement of which is fraught with high costs. When the catalyst is destroyed, it dusts into the cylinders, and stretching the chain leads to a fatal meeting of the valves with the pistons. Under the condition of proper operation and timely replacement of the catalyst, the piston engine can withstand up to 500,000 kilometers, but already closer to 300,000 kilometers, the oil begins to eat up. For minor troubles, it is worth highlighting the unreliability of oil seals, gaskets, and ignition coils. Often, owners complain about unstable editing and valve noise caused by a violation of the gaps. In older specimens, due to the loss of tidiness of the crankcase ventilation, oil begins to enter the inlet. The 2-liter unit is no less reliable than the stock engine, but it cannot boast of its efficiency. Of the common ailments, it is worth highlighting frequent failures of the ignition system, which lead to the appearance of jerks, and failures of traction. Also, this internal combustion engine does not use the most successful firmware of the ECU, which can cause the speed to hang, and one of the engine cylinders doesn't. The disease is treated by flashing the block. In older specimens, gaskets, oil seals, and the crankshaft pulley require attention. The timing belt is used with a prescribed replacement interval of every 90,000 kilometers, but experienced owners recommend changing it every 60,000 kilometers. On the same run, it will be useful to adjust the valve, since there are no hydraulic compressors here. After 150,000 kilometers, it is necessary to monitor the condition of the catalyst, which it is destroyed. It dusts into the cylinders. Every 200,000 kilometers, 300,000 kilometers. The liner shaft chain needs to be replaced. After 2011, they began to use a modern engine of the Theta II series, G4KD, which is less reliable than the previous unit, plus it is prone to the appearance of bullies in the piston group on a small run. Most often, the disease affects the third and fourth cylinders, but it does not immediately make itself felt. It is manifested by noise and oil burning. Choosing a car with such an engine, checking the piston and scope is highly recommended, since the price of error is very high. As with its predecessor, after 150,000 kilometers, the piston begins to kill the catalyst, so it is better to replace or cut it out in advance. In addition to the piston, problems in this internal combustion engine can throw a timing chain and a phase regulator. Diesel Kia Soul suffers from a small resource of fuel equipment injectors, fuel injector pump, fuel ramp regulator. Quite often, the return tubes of the injectors also require attention. Do not differ in reliability in this engine timing chain. e.g. air valve and turbine. Engine life is about 300,000 kilometers. The following gearboxes are available to choose from: 5-speed, 6-speed manual M5CF11, M6CF1, and 4-speed automatic A4CF1. On cars with a diesel engine, there is also a 6-speed automatic transmission A6GF1. From the general problems of the gearbox, it is worth highlighting the tendency to corrosion of the splinters of the drive shafts and not too large erasures of the joints. As paradoxical as it may sound, but the most problematic is a 5-speed mechanics in which even a 126 horsepower engine can crank the differential under load. The situation is now better with the reliability of bearings. After 100,000 kilometers, most specimens show characteristic noises, vibrations, and begin to leak oil seals. Шестиступка is more reliable, but in it, with long sleeves, the axis of the differential satellites crops. On the less significant troubles, we can distinguish the unreliability of the primary shaft seal. On copies on the first years of release, due to factory defects, the gearbox created and switched tightly. A common problem of the manual transmission is the wear of the synchronizers, which makes itself felt closer to 200,000 kilometers. The clutch kit, depending on the operational conditions, is enough for 150,000 kilometers. The 4-speed automatic is the most successful gearbox in this model, and even with a rare oil change can do without significant repairs up to 200,000 kilometers and with timely maintenance and no overloads about 300,000 kilometers. The first failures in the operation of the 4-step are caused by failures of the solenoids and damage to the wiring of the sensors. With an aggressive manner of operation, the GDT lock pads, satellite axes of planetary gears, are handed over earlier than usual, plus the tightness of the box can be broken. It is worth noting that the presence of leaks is dangerous by falling oil lever and failure of the oil pump. When testing a car, pay attention to the presence of howling of bumps during switching, a sure sign of failure of one of the speed sensors and significant wear of the gearbox parts. The 6-step that appeared after the restyling is less reliable, plus its resource strongly depends on the driving style and quality of service. Although, at the dawn of automatic transmission production, there were many factory defects. Underdrive hub bolts and incorrect hydraulic unit settings disabled the box by 100,000 kilometers. Also, this transmission is unloaded with a weak clutch set 35UR and 26, the failure of which is caused by rapid wear of the pistons and Teflon rings. Linear solids can also be considered problematic. There are 6 of them here, the resource of which strongly depends on the purity of the oil. If the transmission is overheated, do not count on the long service life of the speed sensors. During operation, you should avoid long sleeves, as this is fraught with rapid wear of the torque convector, coupling and damage to the slots in the differential housing cuts. With careful operation and regular replacement of the lubricant every 40–45,000 kilometers, the box can last up to 350,000 kilometers. The chassis is not the strongest side of the model. It is quite rigid and painfully tolerates frequent walks on dirt roads, although long trips at maximum load are not recommended, as this leads to early failure of the bumpers, shock absorbers and springs. Another disadvantage is the presence of knocks when passing irregulators, the source of which cannot always be found when examining the chassis. As for the weak points of the suspension, in addition to the stabilizer consumables, silent blocks and strut suppers can withstand less than 100,000 kilometers. Ball bearings and hub bearings can do without replacement 150,000 kilometers. Approximately the same amount of shock absorbers can withstand, but at the same time they lose their former elasticity up to 50,000 kilometers of mileage. Silent beam blocks usually serve more than 200,000 kilometers, but do not like side impacts. In the steering wheel, a rack and pinion mechanism with electric power is used. The rail here is quite reliable, and if you control the condition of the enters, up to 200,000 kilometers of problems should not be. But the amortizer can spoil the nerves. Most often, the part bothers can small failures in electronics, which in most cases can be eliminated by removing the terminal from the battery. It is worth noting that after some time the problem may recur. In cars of the first years of release, there is a problem of spontaneous disconnection of the node due to a mismatch of sensors. The electric motor of the amortizer does not differ in reliability either, the malfunction of which is manifested by noise when turning the steering wheel. The weak points can also be attributed to a gimbal connection of the steering shaft, which quickly breaks if you do not slow down on pedals. But the steering ensembles require attention, and frequently the tips of steering rods can withstand about 100,000 kilometers. Traction more than 150,000 kilometers. The brake system does not cause any special problems, although it is worth admitting that the resource of its ensembles is slightly less than that of competitors, especially in versions with powerful power units. The disadvantages here include the tendency to corrosion of the brake lines of the rear axle and periodic failures on the operation of the ABS unit manufactured by Bosch. Like other representatives of the model range of the Korean automotive industry, the paintwork of the body is quite soft, plus its thickness is below average, which is why the body is rapidly overgrown with creeps and scratches. Most of all, the LCP is subject to damage on the hood, side panels, doors, seal and wheel arches. Many small defects can be found near the door handles and the frames of the windows, as well as in the places of contact of the body with the seals. Typical for this model and such troubles as swelling of the paint around the windshield. Not famous for its strange and windshield, which, due to the small angle of inflection, quickly overgrown with rocks and cracks. When replacing glass, it is better to look in the direction of analogs, since even Chinese glasses sometimes live longer than the original ones. In general, the interior looks good, but the fact that the manufacturer saved on finishing materials affected their wear resistance. For example, the steering wheel braid has significant signs of wear after the first 50,000 kilometers of mileage. Inserts made of silver, plastic, door cards, and torpedoes do not retain their marketable appearance much longer. The fabric upholstery of the seats, when using the car for personal purposes, keeps well, but it also loses its original appearance after the first 100,000 kilometers. But all sorts of adjustment mechanisms and switches as a rule does not cause problems. Well, if you are the owner of this car, then please describe the problems that you had to face during the operation of the car. Perhaps it is your feedback that will help viewers when choosing a car. I am done. Thank you all very much for your attention. I'm very grateful to you if you subscribe to this channel. See you soon.